Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about a subject that if you're not a CFI or not becoming a CFI, you might find this topic just a bit boring because you're probably not busy these days trying to figure out how to or thinking about teaching this material to other people. But if you are a CFI, or even better, if you're becoming a CFI, this is right up your alley, or it should be right up your alley. And what I want to talk about today is something they don't teach you in CFI Academy. They didn't teach this to me. They didn't teach this to any instructor out there that I've met. And it's something that you either figure out or you don't figure out. And if you do figure it out, then your students are better off. And so for those of you CFIs who haven't yet figured it out, I hope this video is helpful. And for those of you who are in CFI school right now, CFI Academy, you're training, you're looking to become a flight instructor, this should be very, very helpful because this means that you'll be thinking about these things even before you start teaching. So, the thing that they don't teach you in flight school, or CFI Academy, I should say, that is crucial to the success of your student is this. As an instructor, part of your job, believe it or not, is to teach your student how to learn. And I'll say that again. Part of your job as an instructor is to teach your student how to learn. Okay? It should be part of your job description. It's on you. You are expected or should be expected to teach your student how to learn. And what I specifically mean here is how to learn in the flight training environment, and even more specifically inside an airplane. Okay? So let's think about this for a second. Your student shows up to flight school and starts training with you. If you could remember back to when you became a student, the entire environment is brand new. Everything is new. Everything is intimidating. Everything is new. Everything is weird. And we're not in the airplane yet. We're still in the lobby of the flight school. There's all these little rooms, and there's whiteboards, and there's people walking around who they don't know. Everything's new. Everything's weird. Now you get into the airplane with them, and you take off. And probably on the first few flights, they need to vomit and they're nauseous and everything's weird. And we expect them to be learning things. Okay, now obviously I painted this picture in an extreme way, but you kind of get the point. We have a student, our student, who's in an environment which is literally brand new, weird, everything's out of place, odd, confusing. They have a headache, they're nauseous, they're tired, they're drained. If you could remember back when you started flying, after a 40-minute flight, you got back down to you landed and got back in the flight school, drained, right? It's a lot of energy consumption. And yet we expect them to be learning. There we are, excited to teach, and we expect them to learn. So here's the thing about this video, and here's what I want to talk about. In CFI Academy, the focus is how to become an instructor, right? How to teach. And the primary focus of most CFIs in CFI school, CFI Academy, is how to teach better, as it should be. How to teach, how to break topics and ideas down into simple words and ideas that could resonate with your student. How to deliver and give over a complex idea in a way that might not be an overload for someone who's all new to this. It's great, right? A lot of the focus is teaching. How do I teach better? How do I transfer this knowledge to someone who's new into this, who doesn't know much about any of this? And there's very little focus devoted to how do I, as the instructor, teach my student not about airplanes, not about how to land, not about how to take off, not about how to perform a steep turn to standards, but how do I teach my student how to learn? Because if I don't do it, why do we keep thinking that our students will just know how to learn in an airplane? okay? And there's a very intricate distinction here. There's the difference between teaching my student and teaching my student how to learn. I hope you could hear that difference. This video is not about teaching as a CFI. This video is not about how do we teach a short field takeoff. This video is not about any of that. This video is about how do I as an instructor do a better job or a job at all in teaching my student how to learn in an airplane in that crazy environment, okay? And I hope now that you're listening and you hear me talking about this, if you're a CFI and you haven't been doing this, you're starting to think, oh, that only makes sense. Like, why do I expect my student to know how to learn? I might expect my student to retain and remember things I teach them, okay? Because, I mean, we're human, and if you teach someone something, you expect them to hear it and get it. But why would my student know how to learn properly in an airplane environment? They wouldn't. It's new to them. It's brand new. So if we don't do that as the instructor, we're basically working triple hard than we otherwise should or could, because now our student's sitting there having no idea how to learn in an airplane. And yet we're doing the best job we could do in teaching the material, but it's not transferring, it's not connecting, it's not hitting home, okay? So there's a few things that I want to discuss as far as ways that as an instructor, I could better help my student learn in an airplane environment, okay? And again, I want to make this distinction again. I want to make this clear. This video is not about how do I better teach the material. I'm sure most instructors hopefully are great. You know, we teach material. That's what we do. And it's awesome. But many instructors miss or don't think about the fact that maybe their student doesn't really know how to learn in an airplane. And that's where we should come in and teach that and literally explain to our student, hey, here's what learning looks like inside an airplane. Here's what learning looks like. Here's what learning might feel like while learning to become a pilot or while training to become a pilot. If we don't talk about these things with our students, they don't know. They don't know. So the first place I want to start with this, and I want you to write this down. The first place we have to start in teaching the student how to learn is by constantly reminding them and really living this and embracing it. Don't be one way and say another. Really embrace this idea that every single thing that happens inside that airplane is a learning experience. It's a learning opportunity. Everything, and I mean everything. A horrible landing, learning opportunity. A flat tire, learning opportunity. A bad spark plug or magneto in the mag check, learning opportunity. If you're one of those who lost an engine in an airplane with your student during a session, as terrifying as that might be, walking away from that, it's a learning opportunity. But here's the interesting thing about learning opportunities. They're only learning opportunities, they're only learning moments if we think of every single thing that happens in our life as a learning moment. Because if I think of every single thing that happens in my life as random, as an event that just sucked, as an event that was just horrible, and then I walk away and I'm just hard on myself for the rest of the week. You see, it could be the same event, the same thing could have happened, and two different people could see them in different ways, and one could walk away feeling horrible and down on themselves, and the other could walk away going, wow, what could I learn from that? That has to have something in it to teach me. But you see, if you don't make this clear to your student, that a bad landing is not a representation of a bad pilot, that a bad landing is not a representation of your student being good for nothing, that your student not knowing the answer to a question doesn't mean that that they're not good enough or that they don't have the brains or whatever it takes. No, It means that we could learn something here, okay? Every single thing that happens in flight training is a learning opportunity. And the reason it's an opportunity is because it's a chance for us to either go, what could I learn from it, and do better on the next time, or completely not think of it in that way and move on just being hard on ourselves. And then it's a spiraling thing. It just gets worse and worse. You think one bad landing will ruin your week? What about 3 bad landings? What about 5 bad landings, right? There's no end to it. So the first thing I think goes into teaching our students how to learn is by making sure that they know that every single thing that happens is an opportunity for learning. It's a chance to take mental notes, apply it to the next time, and do better. It's a chance. It's a chance. And here's the cool thing about seeing it this way. The crazier thing that happens, I use the example of flat tire, right? Flat tires don't happen every day. But let's say one day you land and you land with a flat tire and the plane just veers to the left or the right. You have to apply rudder and it's just crazy, right? The crazier the event, the more rare the event, the less frequent that the event happens. If you look at everything as learning opportunities, if something crazy comes up that doesn't come up every day, in essence, really think about it, mathematically, you should be more excited that it happened because it's even a rarer opportunity. It's less likely to come across again. So embrace that. Rather than being hard on yourself, embrace it and go, what could I learn from this? I forget who it was, but there was someone I heard once who was saying, they were talking about accountability or responsibility. And they said something to the effect of, unless we're dead or in a coma, we should be there or we should show up, something like that. Like he was like making a point that there's no excuses. And I think using that is appropriate here in the realm of learning. Unless we're dead or in a coma, we're learning. We're learning. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there and be crazy. I'm not telling you to go out there and do stuff. But what I am saying is that the crazy, the unfortunate, the uncomfortable, the less nice and smooth landings that will happen, they're learning opportunities. And if you, the instructor, don't teach this to your student, we can't walk around thinking they'll just know that it's learning opportunities. And even if they do know in the rest of their normal life that everything's a learning opportunity, again, remember, they're in an environment that is new, it's weird, things are loud, everything's shaking, there's turbulence, they have a headache. They might forget that things are learning opportunities. So there's really 2 parts to that. One, you have to live it as the instructor. If something happens, if you watch my videos, I say many things, but one of the things I commonly say is good learning. And it's part of me at this point. Everything in it, when I step foot in the airplane, good learning. I tell my students that an airplane is a learning opportunity machine. That's literally what it is. It's a machine. It's a vehicle in which we just learn. We learn. We go out there and we fly and we're learning. We're learning. You do a steep turn, it goes crazy, you gain a bunch of altitude. What did we just learn? How do we do better with this data on the next steep turn? But if we're not learning, not only are we wasting time and money, but it's ruining our week. It's ruining our week. So, and I'm passionate about this, and it's probably coming across because, oh man, if only more people out there could really view an airplane as a learning opportunity machine. It's a machine that we take up into the sky and we learn. We're always learning. We're learning. How do we do it better? If something happens, how can I apply this to the next one and do better and better and better? But guess where it begins? It begins with your instructor. It begins with you, the instructor, teaching this to your student, making your student aware of the fact that it's all good learning. It's all good learning. And as good as all this is, the opposite is just as harmful. Imagine your student, does something, let's say a bad landing, and the instructor just gets mad. Just imagine that for a second. Just think about, I can't even fathom, but just think about for a second how harmful that is on that student's ability to continue in the flight training journey and feel motivated to even show up next time. Just think about that. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So if you're an instructor out there, one of the first duties that you have to do, and you got to make sure you do this, and again, this has nothing to do with airplanes specifically, it's just teaching your student that every time we meet, you and I meet, from the moment we meet to the moment we leave, every single thing that happens is learning. And we will always come back and ask ourselves, what could we learn from what just happened? What could we learn? What could we learn? What could we learn? If you approach flight training with that mindset, just imagine the lessons. Imagine the number of lessons, mental lessons or written down, whatever you want to do, that you walk away with every single day. And if you truly live this, if you really reach a point where you truly believe that whatever happens is a learning opportunity, it's a lesson, it happened to teach me something. If you truly see it that way and live it and embrace it, not only will it not bother you when things happen, you'll almost be excited. It's like, whoa, a free lesson. One of the things I tell my students often is the times in the airplane when we learn the least is when everything's going right and we're doing everything perfectly. There's very little learning that's happening then. There's very little improvement that we really achieve or come to. There's not much going on. It's almost, in the realm of learning, it's almost boring from that standpoint. If I perform something perfectly, I didn't learn much. I executed nicely. Good on me. Good job. I'll pass my check, right? But there's not a lot of learning going on. So the other thing, okay, let's move on now from this teaching our student that everything is good learning. I think this is a good segue to the next thing, and that is making our students aware of the fact of what I just said. There's little learning, there's little improvement that goes on when everything's going perfectly. It's those times when things are not smooth. It's those times when things are ugly. It's those times when things are bouncy. It's those times when we, otherwise, if we wouldn't watch this video and become aware of these things, we would just be hard on ourselves. It's those times when there's the most opportunity for growth and for learning and for improving and for doing better. Because we don't learn when our landing is perfect. We do learn when our landing is all over the place, because that gives us the opportunity to think about it and go, what just happened? What could I have done different? And what will I do different on the next one to prevent that? And that gets you thinking and learning and improving. So this too is your job as an instructor. So there's two parts here so far that I discussed. One, first and foremost thing, you have to make your student aware of the fact that no matter what happens in the airplane, we're learning. It's all good learning. Every single thing. It's a learning opportunity machine. That's the first thing. The second thing is that it's only when things go haywire and sideways and they're not so pretty and they're less than perfect performance that true learning opportunities come about and occur. They don't really happen when things go great and smooth. So get your student in a comfortable mindset with not being perfect. And that's your job as the instructor. Otherwise, you're fighting upstream the whole training environment. If you show up day one and you don't teach any of this to your student will spend the next 6, 7, 8 months frustrated. And you'll be frustrated because how fun is it? It's no fun to sit in a small little flight deck next to someone who's just down on themselves all the time. It's not good energy. I've been next to people like that. I don't want that in my flight deck. I don't want it. So as an instructor, you should do this almost from a selfish standpoint, right? If you want to be around good energy, you should almost do this selflessly. Forget about your student, which, by the way, this is going to help your student tremendously. Even selfishly, it would make sense for you to teach these things to your student. Just keep that in mind. So, everything's good learning. Very little learning happens when things go right. It's when things go wrong that a lot of learning presents itself. A lot of learning comes up. I had a flat tire once on landing with my student. That was phenomenal learning. It was unfortunate. It was time consuming. The airport shut down the runway until they towed us off the runway. I wouldn't maybe choose to puncture the tire if I had the choice just to teach that to my student. But it happened. I had nothing to do about it, but to live with it. And I chose to treat it as a tremendous once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to teach my student everything about how the airplane behaves and what happens and why did we drift and why this and how do you react to it and how do you figure it out. And it was amazing. It was amazing. Treat every single thing in the airplane as a learning opportunity, because it is. It's a learning opportunity. And if you, the instructor, don't teach this to your student, how in the world could we expect them to just show up and know this? And if we do expect it of them without teaching it to them, now we're not being fair. Now that's not cool. And that might frustrate them even more. Okay? So we have to make sure we let our students know everything. And you have to lead by example as the instructor. Own it, right? You're an instructor. This is your job. You're going to teach your students stuff, right? Part of getting better, in fact, the only way to get better is to not be perfect. And unless we could exist with not being perfect, unless we could exist with having bad landings, unless we could exist with not getting things quickly or at the rate we think we should, we won't get better. Or we will get better slowly while suffering through it. And that's not fair or fun for anyone. So it's our job as instructors to make sure that we teach our students how to learn. We teach our students how to learn. Okay, so there's a difference here between teaching material, which you're probably doing a lot of, and teaching your students how to learn. So if you're in CFI Academy now, next time when you pull someone aside and you're trying to, pretend that they're a private pilot, maybe they really are a private pilot, what I want you to do is, instead of teaching them short field takeoffs or steep turns or about the engine, I want you to just have a conversation with them. Still role playing, pretend like they're a brand new student. And the conversation I want you to have with them is what I'm talking about now. And that is about learning and how every single thing that happens in an airplane is there to teach us something. And when you have this conversation with them, you'll tell them, you'll say, listen, from this point on until we get our license, our certificate, every single thing that happens, we will ask ourselves a question. And that question is, what could we learn from this? And how could we do better on the next time, on the next one, because this just happened? These are questions we will ask ourselves, okay? And let your student know that it's a normal, natural part of learning. It's a normal, natural part of the process of becoming a pilot. Otherwise, like I said before, your student won't be aware of this. They'll be unbelievably hard on themselves, and the energy in the flight deck will be somewhere down here. And that's nothing anyone wants to be a part of, including you. So, to keep this video shorter rather than longer, because I could rattle on for days about these things, it's our job as instructors, it's your job as an instructor to teach your student how to learn. Don't assume they know. Don't assume. Assuming is a killer of many, many, many things. Don't assume they know. Because believe me, they don't. We'd be in good shape. We'd be in much better shape than we are today if every private pilot showed up knowing everything I'm talking about here, like just no issues, like they completely know it. And then when they have a horrible landing, they're just like, great, that was an awesome learning opportunity, and then just do better on the next one. The world doesn't work that way. It's just not reality. It's wishful thinking. So it's our job as the instructor to really educate our students and let them know, make them basically kind of give over this mindset to them. Give them this gift. It's a gift. It's a gift. And when you're an instructor, you're in a really cool position. to where your student looks up to you. I forget up, I hate that term. Not up, but looks to you as their resource, as their source, as the source from which they will receive all these good things they need to be safe pilots. It's a phenomenal opportunity. It's really an honor. It's an amazing thing. And oftentimes we just don't take advantage of that. You're in a position of giving your students some tremendous, powerful things. And if you don't take advantage of that, if you don't ride that to its fullest extent, you're withholding from your student. You're withholding from your student. So keep this in mind. So it's our job, again, to teach our students how to learn, not just to teach them the material, but to teach them how to learn in an airplane. There's probably like 10 things about how, to teach your student how to learn. Maybe I should have titled this 10 ways to teach your student how to learn. I'm just sitting here and talking, but what I just shared are the two, I think, really the one is the most important. And this is the foundation. This is the basis for everything else. There's many different ways that we could teach our student how to learn, but without this, we have nothing. So if you're a CFI, on your next session, I want you to sit down with your student, and I want you to explain to them how even though maybe to this point we did not see things as learning opportunities, but today things are changing. We're going to start viewing every single thing that happens as a lesson. And we're going to take notes, and we're going to be aware of things, and we're going to look back and ask ourselves, what could we learn from that? And then apply that and do better and better and better and better. And instead of feeling frustrated we will feel excited when these things happen. And if you're not yet instructing, you're in CFI Academy, it's good timing that you're coming across this, because you owe it to your students before you even ever step foot in an airplane. And when you walk out on the ramp to the airplane, tell your student, you see that little thing there with the wings and the wheels and the propeller in the front, the whole thing? It's not called an airplane. It's called a learning opportunity machine, or name it whatever you want. Whatever you think will convey the point to your student. But I want your student to start seeing this process as a learning process. And part of learning, think of a 2-year-old, think of a 1-year-old, think of a baby who's looking to walk. How do you get walking? You know how you get walking? Let me tell you how you get walking. You fall again and again and again, and you cry and you trip and you hurt your elbow and you fall. And then you know how you get going from 1 step to 2 steps? You fall again and again and again, and then you hit stuff because you're unaware of your surroundings. And then you know how you get to finally taking 5 steps? You trip again and again, and you fall again, and you cry and you cry. Imagine if the baby fell and then fell again and then fell again. And after the 3rd fall, they said, maybe walking's not for me. If walking was for me, I wouldn't fall 3 times. I'd fall once or twice. I wouldn't fall 10 times. Maybe walking's not for me. I'll just crawl for the rest of my life. By the way, you know how many students say this? They show up, they have a bad landing, and then they have a bad steep turn, and then they get nauseous and maybe throw up, and they're embarrassed about it, thinking there's any issue with it, which, by the way, there's no issue with it at all. Your body adapts over time, but these few things happen, and instead of going, yeah, this is what my instructor told me about learning. This is learning. This is how I get better. This is how I improve. Instead of that, because their instructor never told them that, they go, maybe flying's not for me. I get those emails every single day from people all over America, students. I get those emails. This morning I got an email. Someone who actually wanted to quit and didn't quit because he was telling me he watched one of these videos. But that's what happens. They trip again 3-4 times, and then they say, maybe flying's not for me. It's a big issue, but it's happening because their instructor never taught them how to learn, never taught them what this process of becoming a pilot actually looks and feels like. And so they walk around with this idea of what they think they should feel, like the baby thinking I should never trip. What is this falling thing? If I fall, I'm probably not meant for it. Baby doesn't think that way. Why should we? So as adults, we forget these things, right? We're no longer babies. So as instructors, we have a tremendous opportunity to let our student know, hey, remember, you don't remember, but like a baby falls and then takes a step and falls and takes a step. This is what we're going to experience together. We're going to be with each other in this process, and we're going to trip and get up, and then we'll do it again, and we'll get up, and we'll do it again, and we'll get up. But what we won't do is we won't beat ourselves up every time we do something that's not perfect. Not only that, we'll be excited. Why? Because those are the moments where the most amount of learning happens. And it's on us, it's on you, the flight instructor, to make this clear to your student. And like I said before, even if you approach this selflessly, even if you approach this thinking only about you, hypothetically, which you shouldn't, but let's say you do, it still makes sense. You'll have more fun with your student. Your student will be less negative and down on themselves. And it'll be easier to teach them stuff because they understand that part of learning is falling again and 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 100 times. And by the end of that, finally they become private pilots. And guess what they do then? They still fall again and again. Now, the falling, the time between falls, hopefully throughout their life gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We don't want to be tripping every day when you're a private pilot. But we all trip every once in a while. And guess what happens then? Learning. Learning happens when we trip. But it only happens if we stop and choose to see it as a learning moment, as a learning opportunity. It doesn't happen if we just let it ruin our week, okay? So in the name of keeping this, as I always say, which is probably too long at this point anyway, but it is what it is. I have a lot of thoughts to say about this. I hope you find this video helpful. If you're an instructor in CFI school, take this to heart. I've sat next to enough students to tell you that this is key. It's key. It's key. It's key. It's key. It's the foundation to everything else you're going to do. Everything. Before you teach someone steep turns, teach them that part of learning steep turns is doing them horribly for a while. Teach that to your student, because if you don't teach it to your student, they don't know it. And if they don't know it, they go home down on themselves, and then they fight with their wife, and they fight with their husband, and they fight with their kids, and it's a trickling thing, and it's just no fun. Let them know part of learning steep turns is we're going to do some horrible looking steep turns for a little while, and we should be cool with it. We should feel okay with it, because eventually we will walk and we'll take a step and 2 steps and 5 steps and 6 steps. And what we won't do is we won't sit there and go, well, I did 3 steep turns. They're no good. I guess flying's not for me. We won't do that. And we won't do that because the instructor taught the student that part of learning is not being perfect. Part of learning is just doing things horribly wrong for as long as we need to do them until we get it right. That's just part of life. Part of life. So that's our job as instructors. Teach your student how to learn, because if we don't, they don't know. Don't assume. Don't assume. And if you are a student and you do know all this, more power to you. More power to you. Your journey is probably a lot more enjoyable than many others out there. And if you don't know this and your instructor taught it to you, more power to you and more power to them. If you're an instructor who's teaching this to your students, good on you. Excellent. Excellent. Those are the students who tend to excel and do great. Don't be hard on yourself. All right, you guys, enough on this topic for now, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, it's Yoel. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it answered some of your questions, confusion, whatever it might be, that I was able to help you in your own flight training journey. If you did enjoy the video and you did find it helpful, I would appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel and like the video. What that does with the YouTube algorithm is it kind of lets the AI way of letting YouTube know that there's some interest here and there's some helpful information for others. And that way YouTube will share this with other students or people who are going through flight training just like you. So if you do those things, it always helps, and I do appreciate it. Secondly, if you also have a topic, a question, a topic, a concern, confusion, whatever it might be that you want me to talk about on these videos here, go ahead and email me. There's an email in the description of this video below. So if you click on the description of the video, you'll see an email. Email that email with your question or topic, whatever it is you want me to talk about. And in the subject line of the email, write Ask Yoel, because this series is what I call Ask Yoel. So that way when the emails come in, we're able to separate them and know that your email is a topic you want me to discuss on these videos. Anyhow, hope it was helpful, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.